Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 3 people shot and killed in St. James. 8 parliamentarians now under investigation by the Integrity Commission. And later in sports, former Reggae Boys head coach signs with new international team. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. A total of 8 parliamentarians are now being investigated for illicit enrichment. The additional 2 are contained in the Integrity Commission's 2023-24 annual report tabled in Parliament yesterday. The Commission says it has made no comment on the status of any investigation that may be related to any specific illicit enrichment referral, as it has no power in law to do so. The Commission has been criticized for its failure to provide further information on the 6 parliamentarians under investigation for illicit enrichment. Commenting further on the latest report, Chairman Justice Seymour Panton said the agency has no control over the complaints and allegations it receives. Meanwhile, 2 public officials are being investigated for allegations of illicit enrichment. In its annual report last year, the Commission had said that there were 28 public officials under investigation for that offense. 3 parliamentarians are also being investigated for providing false information to the anti-corruption body, while 4 public officials are under investigation for the same offense. And the Integrity Commission says the processes regarding the certification of the statutory declarations of Prime Minister Andrew Holness are nearing completion. The Commission's Chairman Justice Seymour Panton gave the update in his remarks in the agency's annual report for 2023-24 tabled in the House of Representatives yesterday. More in this report. Mr. Holness's declarations for 2021 have not been certified, which has affected subsequent submissions. The issue has been a major source of political controversy and concern from civil society. Justice Panton noted that much has been written and said in respect of the non-certification of the Prime Minister's income, assets and liabilities. But he says the Director of Information and Complaints is required to examine the declarations, and where he is satisfied that it has been duly completed, he is to inform the Commission. Justice Panton explains that to satisfy himself of the due completion of a statutory declaration, the Director shall make such enquiries as he considers necessary. The enquiries are aimed at determining accuracy. Justice Panton says given the restrictions imposed by the Integrity Commission Act regarding statutory declarations generally and related matters, he cannot comment beyond what has been stated. In the meantime, the Integrity Commission Chairman chastised those calling for it to speak on matters relating to statutory declarations or investigations. The law restricts the Commission from making any report or public statement in relation to the initiation or conduct of an investigation by the Director of Investigation prior to the tabling of a report in Parliament. Justice Panton says the Commission awaits the amendments it has recommended that would allow it to make public statements. O'Shane Masters, Radio Jamaica News. 3 people were shot and killed after gunmen went on a shooting rampage on Upper King Street, Montego Bay, St. James on Tuesday. According to reports, at about 6 in the evening, the men were at different locations in the community when they were killed. In the first incident, an unidentified fisherman was sitting at his doorstep at his house when he was killed. The second incident happened when 17-year-old Jaden Bennett was assisting another community member to fix a pipe when he too was shot and killed. In the third, an unidentified man was fatally shot. The teen's family is distraught.
Jaden is not a wrongdoer. Jaden is not a wrongdoer. Every day Jaden say, "Mommy, when you go take me from? When you go take me from here? When you go take me from up here?" So he just did want a little push. Me carry him go. I want school, art school, then do bartending. So he just went go doing bartending and start school. Jaden is not a wrongdoer. We feel really, really bad. Really, really bad.
In other stories, local government minister Desmond McKenzie says over 500 municipal roads have been damaged during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing, Mr. McKenzie says they are also looking to repair a number of bridges which were also damaged.
And in some cases, the National Works Agency and the local authorities work to ensure restoration of a number of roads across the country. About 70% of the municipal roads have been cleared, or access has been made possible on a number of these roads. There are still major challenges in St. Thomas and in sections of St. Elizabeth and Clarendon, and I know the efforts are being made to create more access to many of these community roads.
In the meantime, Mr. McKenzie says with the hurricane season far from over, he is concerned about persons in flood-prone areas who refuse to leave despite warnings.
Places like Port Royal, New Haven, other such communities that are prone to flooding. Efforts was made both at the political level, at the local level, to encourage residents in many of these communities to leave. The National Arena was open, facilitated by the Red Cross to accommodate residents from Port Royal and the Bull Bay community in the corporate area. Nobody from Port Royal. The buses left empty. As the minister said earlier on, this is just the beginning of the hurricane season. And I am urging Jamaicans, as we've been doing in the early warnings, to accept and to act responsible.
And Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr. says the ministry has completed assessments in some areas and items such as food have been delivered to persons affected by the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Minister Charles Jr. gave further details at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing.
In Kingston and St. Andrew, flooding was reported, particularly in the New Haven and Burger Gully, where multiple houses were affected. 37 shelters were opened, housing 357 persons, with only one shelter remaining active at Friendship Brook. Bulk food supplies were provided to marooned communities in Hall's Delight and Westphalia, as well as two shelters at the National Arena. In St. Thomas, 8 shelters housing 176 persons. The household damage assessments are ongoing in that area in multiple communities, with significant relief supplies already distributed, 789 food packages, 50 tarpaulins, and 8 mattresses. Of course, these figures are evolving, because even now as we speak, our team is on the ground. In Portland, we saw 26 houses sustaining roof damage, 1 completely destroyed, and there are several others that we have not yet been able to assess.
The National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, had to respond to another crocodile capture, this time in Grantspen, St. Thomas. Residents were forced to apprehend the reptile, which prompted an unusual request: trainings for those who live close to crocodile habitats. Jamaica Maitland explains.
Residents of Grantspen in St. Thomas look on from a safe distance at a crocodile that was captured Monday morning. Grantspen is located close to mangroves, which are known crocodile habitats. The reptile was somehow displaced by the rains over the weekend. The National Environmental and Planning Agency, NEPA, was called. However, it was clear the reptile was injured.
Them say them protected by the law, you know. We have to protect ourselves. And naturally, a crocodile, a Russian man, go and kill him. So if NEPA show somebody or show the people the right way how to approach a crocodile, for the time being, we would have feel happier.
According to the Wildlife Protection Act, a person may be charged $100,000 or face 1 year in prison if found guilty of having, hunting, killing, capturing, or willfully molesting a crocodile. Communities like Grantspen aside, there have been increased reports of crocodile encounters with the public. Last week, residents in Waterford, Portmore, St. Catherine captured one as well. The men who captured the crocodile also had no experience or training.
No, not really. Because I know once I'm not in the reach for the tail to brush us. From a little youth I grew up coming out, we always the crab bush, so we always out for them things. So I know the first. We just did need more people who are serious, you know.
First crocodile catch, but born brave say no, say. I just a water boat me they want for ever since. Once the water boat reach, it have to catch.
As the country experienced more intense rainfall and stronger hurricanes, more of the reptiles could become displaced. But could training residents on how to safely apprehend the animals until the experts arrive be the way to go? After all, the residents of Grandspen are not relocating.
If there is a program where they can train somebody as persons in the community to say, all right, whenever time you see one, this is how you approach it, this is how you capture it, and this is how you secure it, in order not to injure the animal.
Currently, NEPA offers training to specialized people. In November 2015, a police officer with the help of residents successfully captured a crocodile in Raytown, East Kingston, until NEPA arrived. The officer credited the capture to a NEPA training a while back. TVJ News reached out to NEPA about the possibility of training residents, but we did not receive a response up to news time. Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The Jamaica Public Service, JPS, says it is still too early to calculate how much damage it suffered as a result of the passage of Hurricane Beryl. And despite the extensive damage from a system that didn't make landfall, the power company is insisting its system can withstand a hurricane that does. Krista Campbell reports.
About 3 poles were impacted. One of them, a transmission pole on the hillside of the gorge, that was impacted, and what that has resulted in is a break in service to the line that feeds our Mickleton Halt substation. What that really means to people is that that substation, which supplies Linstead and its environs, is no longer getting a feed from that line. So that's why Linstead is out. However, we are working as we speak to get an alternate route to that said substation.
And we do apologize for that story. It's now time for the Business Minute.
Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says there are 41 fewer public bodies operating in government. He gave an update on the progress of the Public Sector Transformation Program during the recent Caribbean Public Sector Financial Management Conference. Dr. Clark says in 2016 there were 190 public bodies. That number now stands at 149. Under the Rationalization of Public Bodies project, Jamaica has benefited from a reduction in the number of public bodies through mergers, closures, divestments, and the integration into parent ministries. Further afield, U.S. interest rates are expected to stay put for at least a little longer. On Tuesday, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell appeared before the Senate Banking Committee to give his semi-annual monetary policy report. Powell said Fed officials want to see more progress before they start reducing the cost of borrowing. And Boeing reports it ended the first half of the year with gross sales down 70% from a year ago. The aerospace giant said it sold just 14 new jets in the past month, with most of those freighters, but it still marked one of its best sales months of the year. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Hal Shane Burke.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In this evening's health report, we look at leptospirosis.
Yes, you can recover, but it's not a disease you would choose to have, simply because there is that somewhat unpredictable nature of the response to treatment. The range can be from mild to severe, but for persons who do get severe illness, the outcome can be less than pleasant.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Avoid contact with contaminated water or soil. Wear protective clothing and gear when working with animals or in flooded areas. Practice good hygiene like washing your hands frequently, and get vaccinated against leptospirosis if you're at high risk.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Dominican Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt is due to travel to Grenada next week as the Caribbean country recovers from the battering it took when Hurricane Beryl passed through the Windward Islands last week. Skerritt, who is part of an inter-prime ministerial committee of Caribbean Community CARICOM leaders, chaired by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley, said he would also be visiting St. Vincent and the Grenadines possibly later this week or early next week. On the international scene, Palestinian sources say at least 29 people were killed Tuesday in a strike on a school being used to shelter displaced people in Gaza. It is the fourth such incident in 4 days, with Hamas blaming Israel for the deaths. Israel's military has acknowledged carrying out 3 other strikes since Saturday on Gaza schools being used as shelters. Israel said all 3 of those strikes had targeted militants hiding in the schools. The Hamas-run government media office accused Israel of carrying out a terrible massacre and also stated that the majority of those killed were women and children. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Nikinsky Robinson.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, Jordan Ford will have your midday sports report.